Uh, Bill Cooper, for those of you who don't know, was quite an illustrious patriot. Let me give you a little bit of his background. He grew up in an Air Force family, so he was all around the world, exposed to a lot of different cultures. Finally ended up graduating from high school in Japan. He entered the Strategic Air Command, the United States Air Force, held a secret clearance working with B-52 bombers. William received his honorable discharge from the United States Air Force in '65, after which he turned around and joined the Navy. Cooper was a member of the Office of Naval Security and Intelligence, serving as a harbor and river patrol boat captain at Da Nang. Very dangerous place to be. And received many medals for heroism. Not heroin. He received it for heroism during combat, including 2 with the V for valor. He served on the intelligence briefing team for the Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet. And he received an honorable discharge from the Navy in '75. He then got into the publishing industry, and the first book that his company published was called Oklahoma City, Day One. And it was really a revealing look at what really happened during that bombing of April 19th, '95. Okay, so he got into the limelight. Because shortly after the bombing of the Federal Building, Rush Limbaugh read a White House memo from Clinton on the air during his broadcast, which named William Cooper, quote, the most dangerous radio host in America. And Bill, of course, considered Clinton's pronouncement the greatest compliment that he had ever received. So, after that, William Cooper's FBI file, promulgated by the investigation required by his security clearance while in the military service, was one of those unlawfully in the possession of the White House, in what has become known as Filegate. Shortly after this discovery, President Clinton ordered all federal agencies to begin investigation, persecution, and prosecution of Mr. Cooper to shut him up. His book, Behold the Pale Horse, is available, and so is the one we're going to be reading from today, Secret Government. It's a free download, so I suggest if you're interested in this, or if you're interested in debunking this, just go online and download a copy. You can also buy a copy, it's still sold. He was so in touch with the secret agenda and what was going on inside the cabal that on June 28, 2001, he predicted the 9/11 tragedy and said it would be blamed on Osama bin Laden. On November 2001, Bill was killed by the Apache County Sheriff's Department in Arizona during a raid on his home. You know, with Bill, you can't gaslight him because he knows what he's seen, and he's got both oars in the water. If you read his manuscripts, it's so well documented and so detailed that there's no doubt that he knew what he was talking about. And he wasn't the type of person that could be bullied. He liked the attention, and he was certainly a brave patriot. So, there's nothing else you can do. You just have to kill him. So, we're going to read you a lot of this manuscript, but let's jump to the end and listen to the last paragraph he writes. This will tell you what kind of a guy he was.
Quote, I have brought you the truth as I know it. I do not care what you think of me. I have done my duty, and no matter what fate lies in store for me, I can truly meet my Maker with a clear conscience. I believe first in God, the same God my ancestors believed in. I believe in Jesus Christ and that He is my Savior. I believe, second, in the Constitution of the United States of America, as it was written and meant to work. I have given my oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I intend to fulfill that oath." Unquote.
So even though he died for what he was devoted to, I think he would feel like he had done the right thing, which is what we all should keep in mind to do. All right, let's start with the document here. I'm going to start, and then we're going to read through the first little bit, and I think you'll find it exciting. During the years following World War II, the government of the United States was confronted with a series of events which were to change beyond prediction its future, and with it, the future of humanity. A stunned President Truman and his top military commanders found themselves virtually impotent after having just won the most devastating and costly war in history. The United States had developed, used, and was the only nation in the earth in possession of the atomic bomb. Which alone had the potential to destroy any enemy, and even the earth itself. At that time, the United States had the best economy, the most advanced technology, the highest standard of living, exerted the most influence, and fielded the largest and most powerful military forces in history. We can only imagine the confusion and concern when the informed elite of the United States government discovered that an alien spacecraft, piloted by insect-like beings from a totally incomprehensible culture, had crashed in the desert of New Mexico.
Between January 1947 and December 1952, at least 16 crashed or downed alien craft, 65 alien bodies, and 1 live alien were recovered. An additional alien craft had exploded, and nothing was recovered from that incident. Of these incidents, 13 occurred within the borders of the United States, not including the craft which disintegrated in the air. Of these 13 were in Arizona, 11 were in New Mexico, and 1 was in Nevada. 3 occurred in foreign countries. Of those, 1 was in Norway, and the last 2 were in Mexico. Sightings of UFOs were so numerous that serious investigation and debunking of each report became impossible, utilizing the existing intelligence assets.
An alien craft was found on February 13, 1948, on a mesa near Aztec, New Mexico. Another craft was located on March 25, 1948, in Hart Canyon near Aztec, New Mexico. It was 100 feet in diameter. A total of 17 alien bodies were recovered from those 2 craft. Of even greater significance was the discovery of a large number of human body parts stored within both of these vehicles. A demon had reared its ugly head, and paranoia quickly took hold of everyone then in the know. The secret lid immediately became an above-top secret lid and was screwed down tight. The security blanket was even tighter than that imposed upon the Manhattan Project. In the coming years, the events were to become the most closely guarded secrets in the history of the world.
A special group of America's top scientists were organized, and the name Project Sign in December of 1947 to study the phenomenon. Project Sign evolved into Project Grudge in December of 1948, a low-level collection and disinformation project named Blue Book. was formed under Grudge, including the controversial Grudge 13, which I and Bill English saw, read, and revealed to the public. Blue teams were put together to recover the crashed discs and dead or alive aliens. The blue teams were later to evolve into alpha teams under Project Pounce.
Now, as an aside from the text, actually, you might have heard of Project Blue Book. It was the deliberate gaslighting of all Americans, actually in the general public worldwide. Officially, this project was to investigate all incidents of UFO sightings and find out what was going on. But we know that unofficially, it was to debunk and discredit legitimate sightings, discredit observers, keep official observers under wraps, and make fools, that's the gaslight, anyone who said they had seen or believed in USOs. This probably has happened to a lot of you guys. The study, or scam, was ended after the UFO wave of 1966 and 1967, of which, I was a part. I was observing UFOs at that time, but I'll save that for another podcast. So many sightings were observed that the Air Force was going nuts. Actually, what they were trying to do in Blue Book was try to debunk like 1,000 sightings. And, you spend a year debunking 1,000 sightings. Well, during that year, there's 5,000 more that came in. So it was like a losing battle for the Air Force. So here's how it ended. The government, actually the Air Force probably, commissioned the University of Colorado to look into the efforts of Project Blue Book. And dutifully, the University of Colorado, like every other government consultant, came up with the answer they wanted to hear. They came up with 3 findings. The first finding was, 1, no useful information had been found studying UFOs in Project Blue Book. All right? Number 2, it was unlikely that any new information would be found. Now that's probably the most outrageous statement I've ever heard.
Me too.
So anyway, and the third thing that they dutifully found for the Air Force was that Project Blue Book should end because it's wasting money. And that was just what the Air Force wanted.
And now back to Bill Cooper's text. During these early years, the United States Air Force and the CIA exercised complete control over the alien secret. In fact, the CIA was formed by presidential order first as the Central Intelligence Group for the express purpose of dealing with the alien presence. Later, the National Security Act, the NSA, was established to oversee the intelligence community and especially the alien endeavor. A series of National Security Council memos and executive orders removed the CIA from the sole task of gathering foreign intelligence and slowly but thoroughly legalized direct action in the form of covert activities at home and abroad. Through a number of secret memos and actions, these actions established a buffer between the president and the information. It was intended that this buffer serve as a means for the president to deny knowledge if leaks divulged the true state of affairs. This buffer was used in later years for the purpose of effectively isolating succeeding presidents from any knowledge of the alien presence other than what the secret government and the intelligence community wanted them to know.
Oh, then, of course,